Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I'm Rahul Srivastava from GyanDhan. And to start, let me tell you a little bit about GyanDhan. So, GyanDhan is an education financing marketplace. We help students in getting abroad education loans through top leading lenders in India, including government banks, private banks, NBFCs, and international lenders. Till date, we have helped more than 10,000 students in getting abroad education loans. To help study abroad aspirants, we organize events every week, and you can check the upcoming events on our website in the event section. And today, we are going to discuss the SOP writing hacks and importance of LOR. To explain you that, we have two industry experts from IMS, Dipti Pal and Anurag Dikshit. To introduce, Dipti Pal is the head of admission consulting at IMS, and Dipti has experience of more than 14 years in admission consulting. She has interacted with more than 4,000 students with a success rate of 95%. She has helped students secure more than 20 crore in scholarships and admits from colleges like HBS, Stanford, Wharton, LBS, Insead, HEC, and HEC Paris. To tell you about Mr. Anurag Dikshit, he is a leading admission consultant at IMS. He is a Georgetown University alumnus with more than 9 years of experience and has placed more than 5,000 students. He is an expert in university selection, essay writing, and resume building. Welcome, Anurag and Deepti.
Yeah,
Everyone
thank you,
who,
Thank you,
Rahul.
Rahul.
yeah, and everyone who is attending, you can post your questions in the chat section, message section, and we will take them after presentation. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Deepti and Anurag and request you to start with today's topic. Over to you, Deepti and Anurag.
Thank you, Rahul. Good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure to address all of you today. Rahul has already introduced me, so we won't delay it further. So, today we have an exciting webinar lined up. So, the format of the webinar, as Rahul has already specified, we are going to have a short presentation. Post that, we will be opening the session for the Q&A. So, in case if you have any queries or any questions related to application process for abroad education for masters and any queries related to application documents, please feel free to post your question in the chat box. So without further delay, let's begin with the webinar. Anurag, yeah, so can we just move to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am. So, should I start with the session, ma'am?
Yeah, we can start with the session, right?
Okay. Good evening, all of you. So, like Dipti ma'am said, and Rahul introduced us, we are going to talk about master's applications today, specifically looking at how to write an effective statement of purpose, and also we'll look at letters of recommendation. What is their importance, and what are the key things to remember about LORs. So essentially, to brief you about the contents of today's presentation, we'll be talking about the admission criteria first of universities in India versus abroad. Then we'll look at pillars of impressive application, look at the structure of SOP and some SOP writing tips, some do's and don'ts of writing stellar SOPs. Then we'll move on to what the universities are expecting from SOPs that they have on their portal. We'll look at letters of recommendation in depth, and then we'll look at the application timelines. So,
Great. So Anurag, do you want me to cover these initial slides?
yes, ma'am, please.
But I'm not able to, the slides presentation is not moving. So,
Oh, okay. Rahul, is the slides moving, or do you want me to change some setting here?
No, slides are not moving. I
Okay.
mean, no setting changes required. I think you can just uh, maximize the slide and
So we are still
just
at the
put it
first
on the
slide.
slideshow. Yeah, we are
Okay.
at still at this. So you
One
can just
second.
put on the slideshow, right?
Okay.
Students, please, apologies for a short break. We just presenting the presentation. Okay. Yeah. So I think
Is it moving now?
this is moving. This is good, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you can hide that this one. Yeah, hide. Just click on hide. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great, Anurag. So I think this Rahul has already covered about
Yes.
myself. Anurag also, we have introduced Anurag also. So the content for today is going to be like we have some exciting topics which we are going to cover, especially the admission criteria with the abroad universities follow. What are the main pillars for the application, the SOP structure, the statement of purpose structure, the tips for an effective SOP. We also going to cover about the university remarks on the SOP, the letters of recommendation, and in the end, the application timeline. So this is the agenda for today's webinar. So let's move to the next slide. So we have mentored so many students, and the one thing we come across whenever we are interacting, I'm sure Anurag will also vouch for this, that the students are usually very confused and they are not aware that how the Indian admission process is different from the global admission process. So this is very important to understand. First of all, in Indian scenario, the admission committee gives lot of emphasis on your test score, your competitive, the test score, the test you give, like the entrance test, whether you're going for management education at a master's level, or you're going for the master's in technology or engineering related, exams. So the 85% weightage is on your test score. If you score well on your competitive exams, there are great chances of making it to the top schools. So your profile doesn't come into the picture at the time of the admission. It's your profile comes into the picture when you have received an interview call, or when you have cleared the stage 1. So if you don't have a good competitive test score, competitive exam test score, then you are eliminated at a stage 1 level. So it's a system which fairly favors candidates which have a very strong quantitative aptitude, or they are very good in test taking strategy skills, right? But the study abroad, the global admission process, the admission committee is going to evaluate your profile holistically. So it's a system, it's a great system which favors an all round excellence. So here the test weightage for your master's application is just going to be 20 to 25% weightage. The rest 60 to 75% weightage is all on your profile. When I say profile, it all depends upon your academic background, your work experience, the kind of companies you have worked with, if you have an international exposure, your involvement in extracurricular activities. It can be involvement in your college related projects, assignments, or any research work. And how do you translate well in your application, that is writing a very impressive statement of purpose, letters of recommendation. So each and every aspect, if you see in this slide, has a weightage and carries weightage for your admission. So it's a beautiful system which favors an all round excellence. I'm sure, Anurag, you will also agree with this, that
Yes.
the student has to balance on both the aspects. They have to score well on the test, and they also have to come up with a very strong application. So now let us understand, what are these the components of the application, and we are going to discuss today about in detail about SOP and letters of recommendation. So the pillars of impressive application, first of all, when you have decided that you want to go abroad, you have made up the mind that, hey, I want to do a master's abroad, or a master's in a specific area, or a management studies abroad. It is very important that you find the right school. So the school shortlisting process is very important. The entire planning has to be done well in advance, uh, followed by preparing the application documents. Once you have the schools in place and school shortlisted is done, and then you know that they have a specific deadlines to follow, then that's the time where you begin with your resume building, your resume work. Then also you identify the application requirements, that is whether it is a statement of purpose or the admission essays required. So that's the time where you start brainstorming and putting these essays in place. you identify your letters of recommenders, you probably approach them, get these letters of recommendation done, and in the end you also do a thorough research on the schools and network with the admission committee or the school students, current students, past students, to know more about the school, the curriculum, to know more about the career stats and all. So if you plan all these activities well in advance, I'm sure you will, you will be able to make it to your desired university or a dream university. So let us now understand, more in detail about, the SOP and the LOR, which is the, the main, the topic of this webinar. So, Anurag, it will be great if you could share your experience about SOP and, the tips how to come up with a strong, the application documents. Over to
Cer-
you.
Certainly, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's come to SOP. Now, let's start from the basics. So, for those of you who are new to the term SOP, essentially it stands for a statement of purpose, right? A statement of purpose is an important part of the application. Like Dipti ma'am just informed us about the different weightages. We know that the weightage for a statement of purpose in the application is around 20 to 25%. So it is as important as your GRE exam, right? It is a very important component and has a very heavy weightage. So we need to understand what it is, what the universities are expecting, and how to approach, what approach to take when you are going to planning to write an effective SOP, right? So essentially, an SOP is an essay style write up that is required by almost all the universities where you're applying for a master's program, right? Because at the master's level, they want to understand what is the perspective of the student. Why do you want to go for this higher education? Are you ready for it? What kind of motivation do you bring to the class, and what kind of diversity you bring to the class, right? So basically, this is your opportunity. This is the opportunity for an applicant to communicate about themselves, right? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What has their life journey been like? And essentially, with a focus on what is what is their background academically, and what are their career plans, and why they are looking to pursue for a master's degree. So they also need to show about what motivated them, what inspired them, what kind of career goals and life goals they are coming with, right? So it is important to be unique, right? Because it is kind of every student has a unique journey, has unique set of experiences, have unique reasons why they have done some particular task, or why they have pursued a particular degree. So this is your chance to kind of show that uniqueness and show kind of explain to the admissions committee your life journey, and why it makes sense for you to be applying for a master's degree, and how a master's degree will help you in your career goals, right? So that is to kind of understand initially about an SOP. Now, if we go into more depth about what a typical structure of an SOP is like, right? So a typical structure will have an introductory paragraph where you will talk about your you will introduce yourself and you'll talk about your background initially. We will go through these points in detail. So after the introductory paragraph, you will go towards a summary paragraph where you will summarize what is your motivation, why you pursued the undergraduate degree that you pursued, what kind of projects have you pursued in your undergraduate degree. The next paragraph should be summarizing your motivation and the learnings that you've got from the internships and practical experiences, right? And then you will talk about, if you have gathered any work experience, then you will summarize the learning and motivation from the work experience. You have to also, very important, to address why an MS. Why do you want to pursue an MS? You have to explain that in depth, and also why doing an MS for you right now is the right thing. Like, why do you want to go for an MS at this stage in your career, at this stage in your life? So these are very important questions that need to be answered in any SOP. If they are not answered, then it makes for an incomplete SOP. Also, career goals are a very important aspect of the SOP. You have to discuss what are your career goals, what are the goals that are pushing you to pursue this MS, and how you're planning to use this MS later on to build your career, your dream career, right? Also, you have to talk about the university that you're applying to, why that particular university makes sense for you, what kind of research have you done about the university, Are you well versed with the offerings of the university? A good fit for you. And then in the end, you will have a summary paragraph and a conclusion about justifying the reasons that you feel that an MS degree is right for you at this stage. And you kind of conclude on that note. So let's kind of understand individual aspects of this structure in depth. So the first paragraph, like I said, is the introduction. So you have to kind of start with some kind of an anecdote or some story about yourself, which gives the reader some idea about where you are coming from, what kind of background you are coming from. It can be an event or an experience that motivated you or inspired you. You can talk about what motivated you to pursue the particular undergraduate major that you did. For example, if you went for computer science or electronics and communication engineering or mechanical engineering or life sciences or chemistry, whatever subject that you've learned in your undergrad, what were the motivations, what was the thought process behind picking out those subjects, and then you kind of that is a good way of introducing yourself in the essay. And then one thing to note is that you should try to avoid any famous quotes and sayings. A lot of students kind of look at sample SOPs online, and they get the idea that okay, I have to sound intelligent, I have to sound smart, so I will just pick some famous quotes from different people and just quote them in the essay. So it's very important to note why you need to quote a particular quote. Like maybe one or two quotes would be sufficient for the entire SOP. You don't have to quote more than those. And even if you quote a particular quote, you have to mention who from whom the quote has come, like who has written or said that thing. And if somebody else has said it, then you cannot claim credit for it. And it has to be a part of the theme of your SOP, right? If you are talking about those things, then it would make sense to kind of quote a particular quote.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not required.
Yeah, I agree with Anurag. I think we have, witnessed this, and we have edited so many SOPs. And Anurag, you remember that some students will write quotes in, from Sanskrit, and
Yes.
it's translating in English, and some quotes where have no relevance to their master's
Yeah.
studies and all. So at times it's very, for us it's very amusing to find such quotes and which is has no relevance, so please avoid it unless and until you are very it really influence your entire your career journey or your life journey, or it resonates well with your profile, or or you really believe in, as said. So avoid unnecessary quote. If you really feel that it goes well, and it is your writing, if goes well with your writing style, then only you mention, then only if you're convinced, then only add in your SOP in your introduction paragraph. Yeah. Over to you,
Yeah.
Anurag.
Yes, ma'am. So that is about the quotes. Then, of course, you have to talk about what interests you about that particular field, right? So, what are the different aspects of that field that are of specific interest to you? You can talk about it with a story, with some experience, or in general, what are the aspects that you find fascinating. You have to also share some kind of an evidence to reflect your interest, right? So, when you say that you like X, Y, Z about a particular field, then you have to show that you have done some project or some work, or while doing some experiment you came across some concept which actually fascinated you, right? So that kind of makes the story more tangible, like the reader understands that okay, you did this particular, you demonstrated your passion, you explored your interest by doing a practical demonstration such as a project or an experiment, or maybe you worked on a project and publication in a journal, you attended some seminar or conference, or you attended some additional courses which were beyond your curriculum. So those things kind of show that you are interested in the field, and also that gives you some leverage to talk about your specific interest in different aspects of the field. So that is about the introductory paragraph. Now if we come to the second paragraph, where you are essentially need to summarize and your experience at the bachelor's level, your undergraduate degree, right? So you have to basically bring out all the relevant details about your undergraduate degree. If you have also done a master's or a postgraduate degree or diploma, then you will talk about both your degrees, undergraduate and postgraduate. You have to talk about the relevant projects that you have done. So essentially the technical projects that are linked to the field that you're planning to apply to, even if they are not directly linked, but you can find some link between those, then definitely you have to kind of mention those projects and then justify the link that you feel that those project experiences will help you in your masters, right? You also talk about your internship experiences, what you have learned in the practical internship that you have undergone, or if you have you can talk about the courses in the curriculum, like even the courses, there are some very good advanced level courses that are taught at the undergraduate level. So if some particular class or some particular course taught you something new or opened your mind to a new thing, then definitely you can discuss those things. You can talk about trainings, seminars, so any kind of technical activity that you might have undergone and that have enabled you to kind of gain some distinctive knowledge in the particular field. You also have to talk about the co-curricular and extracurricular activities and highlight any leadership roles, right? So these are very important, positions of leadership. If you have held any position of leadership, then you should kind of highlight that in your statement of purpose, and you have to kind of show how what kind of things you learned from that experience, what kind of qualities you showed while you to this date you did this, and from this date to this date you did this activity. You have to kind of talk about what motivated you to do that, why that was the next logical thing to do, or what you learned from that particular activity. So it should not be a carbon copy of the resume. Of course, you have to maintain some sense of a timeline. You have to give them, the reader, some idea about when you did what. So you can mention some dates, but you don't have to be hard and fast about exact dates and from this date to this date. All those things are not required. You can just say that okay, in this year these were the things that you did, and those were the reasons why you did those things. So that's a good way to approach the second paragraph. Now, if we come to the third paragraph, where you will be talking in depth about the internships and any professional experience. So there are a lot of students who have gained 1 or 2 years of experience or even more amount of experience, and then they apply for a master's degree, right? So this will apply to them as well. Internships are a kind of a mini job. You get maybe 3 months or 6 months of internship in a company where you get exposure to the actual working standards in a company, and you learn a lot of things on the job. So you have to talk about your learnings both in terms of the technical learnings and the interpersonal skills that you have learned through those internship projects or assignments, right? Because essentially when you go for a master's degree, even there you will be required to demonstrate both technical abilities and interpersonal abilities, because you will be in a big class, you will be doing a lot of projects in groups. So both these qualities are very important, and you have to talk about how you have learned and evolved in these two main skills, right? And for many students, this is where the motivation to pursue an MS degree comes from, right? Because when they do an internship or do a job, they kind of realize, okay, how their learnings are being applied, right? And then from those applications they come up with newer ideas, they get motivated to do something new, and so it can become a reason for your motivation why you want to actually pursue a master's degree. If you have work experience, definitely talk about it. What are the things you have learned from that experience, and how that experience will help you in your master's degree. If we're moving on to the fourth paragraph, where we have to address why you want to go for an MS and why going for an MS now is making sense, right? So when you talk about your extensive work history or internships, You also need to give a solid reason for why you want to pursue masters at this stage of your career, right? Because if you are already set in a job and you have done so well in your job, then why to go for a master's? So you have to kind of justify why going for a master's makes sense for you, right? You have to kind of talk about whether you want to move from the industrial to the academic side, or you want to get into research, or you want to get into new innovations or new technology. So those things, elaboration on those things will come in this paragraph. For people who are fresh undergraduates who have just passed out, it could be a simple reason to continue in academics and gain specialized knowledge before entering the professional world, right? Because we all know that the amount of knowledge and skills you can gain in an undergraduate degree is limited, right? And many a times in the industry, they expect a lot of advanced skills. So to gain those advanced skills, a lot of students go for a master's degree, which is a quite an advanced degree, especially if you go for a master's degree abroad, right? So it must showcase the gaps in your learning. You have to kind of talk about, okay, although I have done undergraduate in this, there are still gaps in my learning. These things I don't know. These things are important for industry, for getting a good job and becoming successful at your job. So that is why I would like to pursue master's degree to gain these skills, and then I will be more employable, right? So that is one way of approaching it. Also, you have to highlight what were the shortcomings you felt in your knowledge and skill set during the commissioning of technical projects at undergraduate level, right? So you might have done some projects, maybe the final year project, there are other projects, or you might have gone to some competitions, and there you might have observed, okay, although I'm good at these things, but there are these things that I'm not so good at, and these seem important. If I don't have knowledge of this, I cannot proceed further in this field, right? So those kind of learnings actually come to light in this paragraph, and through that kind of an expression is when you actually justify, okay, this is why I want to go for a master's degree. These are the main reasons, and these are the reasons why a master's degree now actually makes sense in my career. So that, and it is important to justify these things because the admissions committee is also looking for some kind of answers to these questions. These are important questions, relevant questions for an applicant. If we come to the career goals, right, then you have to talk about essentially short term and long term career goals. Career goals are very important part of your statement of purpose, so you cannot miss it. To give you more elaboration on short term career goals, basically you have to talk about what do you want to do right after completing a master's, right? So in the short term after finishing a master's, what are the things career wise that you want to do? What are the goals that you want to achieve? You should try to specifically mention the technical and general skills that you would need to develop in order to work in the desired capacity, right? So you should try to talk about what skills you want to gain, and in the short term, what are the things that you can learn while you are on the job in a particular career. And then maybe it can be a ladder to reaching your long-term career goal. But basically, you have to be specific. You have to talk about what kind of companies, what kind of roles, what kind of designation you are looking at. Then coming to the long-term goal, this will be at a more longer duration, right? Maybe 10 to 15 years after you have passed out from your MS. So you have to again be specific. You cannot just give a vague long-term career goal that, okay, I want to become an astronaut or I want to become a scientist. You have to kind of, talk about what change you want to bring to the world, what change you want to bring to the particular stream that you're studying. If you are looking at research and innovation, then what kind of innovations you want to bring out and what kind of change will that impact, right? And of course, what kind of impact you will have at the society at large. So you have to talk about the specific skills that you want to gain, and essentially what kind of a career you're looking at for yourself. And you have to kind of justify it with the learnings that you already have, and what kind of a mindset, what inspired you and motivated you to pick that career. So once they can see the clarity in your short term and long term career goals, then that actually solves a lot of your problems, because once you have clarity and you can express that clarity, then you can move on to why masters will help you achieve these goals, right? Because a master's degree is intended for people who are have a lot of clarity about what they want to do. They are able to use the things that are offered in the master's level more effectively, and the university also likes that because they have people who have clear vision and clear thoughts, so that they can also train them in the right things that they are looking for. So career goals very important. Then Of course, very important aspect is the university, right? You are applying to a particular university. There are so many universities, more than 1,000 universities abroad, right? So why are you particularly picking a specific university? You have to kind of justify why that university makes sense for you. So you must essentially, first of all, name the university, right? You have to kind of name the university to kind of create a connect with the university. You have to do a lot of research about the university from their websites, from their available webinars or videos, etc. And then you have to also, if possible, mention names of at least one or two faculty members, right? With whom you would like to work on projects, with whom you would like to learn. So this shows that you have done your research and you have some clarity about, okay, this university and this program will be right for me because of these reasons, right? You have to show what kind of an area of interest you want to work in your masters and under what kind of faculty members. Also, you can talk about the infrastructural facilities that the university provides, right? That is also an important aspect. You have to talk about for example, the labs, the curriculum. You can talk about the location, what kind of an advantage the location of the university can bring, and any other facilities that the university might have, right? So these kind of questions can be answered in this aspect, right? Why have you chosen a particular university? So mention what you like about the university you are applying to and why, like facilities, infrastructure, etc. Then you can move on to why are you looking forward to study here or what skills you are looking to acquire through this course, right? So then you can talk about this particular skills and then what characteristics of the school or the department can help you accomplish your goals. Please check if they have any industry specific tie-ups, right? So many universities offer a co-op or a mandatory internship. So those are important things that some other university might not offer, right? So you have to see what is the unique things that the university is offering and how that is helping a student to shape up their career. So that way you have to make it customized for the particular specific university and justify why that university makes sense for you. Now, if we come to the extracurricular activities, which is also an important aspect, you have to talk about if you have been active in extracurricular activities. Everybody is active. They all have another side where when they are not doing their technical work, when they are not doing their job, or when they are not doing their studies, they are doing something else. So you have to highlight that aspect of your personality as well. The extracurricular activities that you have been active in, it can be community service, it can be any particular hobbies that you have pursued or interests, anything that you feel can add value. You have to also show how you can bring diversity to the classroom, right? So every student will have some different set of interests and hobbies. So the university likes to have diversity. They like to have people who are interested in different things because when those people come together, then their ideas can bring something new, something magical, right? So you have to kind of show what is the unique thing, what is the magic that you can bring to the class, right? They essentially the outcomes like a well-rounded personality. So they need to know some details about your personality. What are the different aspects of your personality, right? They don't want somebody who is just crazy about who is just studying all the time and it's kind of like a dull jack in the box. They want people who are clear about what they want and who also know how to balance things, how to balance their leisure time and their study time and work time. So definitely extracurricular activities can give you a good value add if you can kind of show that you have pursued some hobbies to some decent level of advancement. Now coming to the last paragraph, the concluding paragraph, basically you have to basically in this paragraph sum up what are the main things why your interest in the MS came about, and from there, why do you think that this particular university will help you? What are the career goals that you have, and how those goals can be achieved through the MS degree program from this university. So essentially, it's a summary paragraph where you also talk about how the mentoring from this university can help you develop into a world-class researcher, right? So this once you have this concluding paragraph, that will bring you to the end of the SOP. So it's kind of a very detailed document. It takes a lot of time. It can take 1 to 2 months. Sometimes it can take even 4 to 5 months to write this document. So the more detail you bring into this document, the better chances you make for yourself for getting an admission. So now to move on to the next section about SOP writing tips, I would like to request Dipti ma'am to help out and share her knowledge.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much for covering each and every paragraph so much in detail and addressing all the students. I mean to say, sharing with all the students. So let us now understand and summarize what are the SOP writing tips. Yes, if you can just move to the slide, Anurag. Okay, now let me summarize that to prepare an impressive SOP. First of all, you can, if you are okay, you really believe in, you can start with some quote or an experience, as we discussed, in the earlier. Logical flow is very important between the paragraphs. Avoid the shift of ideas in the paragraphs. So ensure that there is a you are properly articulating your thoughts. It should not happen that you start with an experience and jump to your internship and then mention something that why an ms is important. Follow the structure, make it simple, make it easy to to gauge your interest, and make it easy so that an admission committee is able to understand what you're trying to convey. So logical flow of ideas and thoughts is very important. SOP, as Anurag mentioned, that it goes through various rounds of iteration. So it's very important that you keep on critically analyze the document, the SOP, and the maybe show it to your family members, show it to your mentors, so that you are able to put your thoughts in place. Avoid duplication of information that's already available in transcripts and application form. We've seen many students, they keep writing about their grades in the SOP. Sometimes, the students, they do write their GRE scores also, or they mention about, their rank and everything. So it's not required. SOP is all about yourself, about your story, and make it as subjective as possible. But don't avoid duplication of information about avoid information which is more related to transcripts or application form related. Uh, like if suppose if you have you are like always in the top 5% of your class, if you have a amazing academic grades, then you can mention it that you've been always in the top 5% of the class, you are always been a rank holder. Maybe you can word it like that. So that's what we would suggest you. Highlight extracurricular activities that help you to become a better master's applicant or a candidate. So universities appreciate if you are a member, an active member of various international associations like IEEE or Computer Society of India or ASME. All these are or are very highly reputed. Even the student bodies like ISEC or Rotaract Club and all that. If you have been active on all these clubs, then please do highlight that and specify what has been your involvement, how consistent you are in these involvement with these organizations, what has been your the learnings and all. That's very important. Break up the content in paragraphs if you find it is difficult to start the SOP to begin with, because many students, they go through the sample documents, they go through the tips which we share with them, but then also they feel that where do I start from, how do I begin with. So our recommendation would be to have a prepare an SOP worksheet. Maybe you can break down the content into the paragraphs with the subheadings, and then you try to elaborate. So maybe you can have a subheading of career goals, and you can have a subheading of projects and internship, and then talk about your projects and internship and summarize it in maybe one or two paragraph, and then probably you can connect the paragraphs, or you can weave your SOP accordingly. So break up the content into paragraphs and try to attempt to elaborate on those paragraphs. Avoid using slang and abbreviations. That's very important, because some terms which are common to us, not necessarily the international community or the person who is reading your SOP will be aware of it. So and especially when the terms are very locally used in Indian setup or the scenario. So avoid using slangs and abbreviations. try to it's a small point, but it really showcase to the admission committee how particular you are, and how important you are when what's your writing skill, and how important how the importance you give to all these small things. Highly personal content and emotional stuff should be avoided. It is not necessary unless and until it is justifying some specific point, or justifying a like a gap you have in academic year due to some family crisis you have gone through, or you were not able to give you were not able to achieve to a certain result, expected result, due to some medical issue, or some other problems or circumstances were very difficult. Try to highlight that, but don't add too much of personal content or emotional stuff. The admission committee will not be able to appreciate a lot. You can mention it subtly, but don't delve into deeper. And unless and until it justifies some specific point. And the SOP needs to touch all the relevant points. We have already discussed the structure of the SOP and the 7 paragraphs. So it should ideally it should cover. So it should cover all the relevant points, and it should be concise and crisp. It should be around 1,000 words long. I've been getting the questions that my SOP is 1,200 words, 1,500 words, but we have seen every university has a different criteria. So we advise the SOP should not be more than 1,000 words, or a two maybe a two-page document. And some universities do have a word limit. They specify word limit very strictly. They follow that. So, like for example, Purdue University in US has a requirement of 500 words, and there is a possibility that XYZ University will have even a 300-word SOP, or a 500, and some may have some specifications given. So try to adhere to those specifications. But if there are no specifications given, we would advise you to keep your SOP around 1,000 words. So these are some writing tips which I'm sure would be helpful for you while you plan or you're writing your SOP. Yeah, we'll move to the next slide. So some of the SOP don'ts, I think we have covered in detail about the essentials of SOP, and some tips on the writing an impressive SOP. Now some of the don'ts, some of the you should avoid certain things which are, do not copy the model SOP which is there on the net, or which you have come across by through your network, through your friends or seniors. So do not copy the model SOP. There are several SOPs which are there on the web, and if you copy the content, I am sure there is an adverse impact on your chances. So please come up with your original SOP, even if it's in a simple language, even if you're able to convey what you want to do, why you want to do a masters, and how masters will be helpful in your career planning. It serves its purpose. Don't use a very bombastic language. Don't use a very don't use the entire dictionary out there, because many students, they say that, okay, I'm not good in the writing skills. Can you change the language? Can you make the language very impressive? Can you use some a good vocab and all? So we always say that it's your SOP. If you it should reflect that it is all your story, and what you it's your life journey, your life story. If you are not able to understand what you are writing, how will be you will be able to convey it to admission committee, or if there is an interview, how will you put it across, right? So it is very important that you use a language which you understand, you comprehend well, and don't use a very difficult words or jargons in your SOP. It may not go well. So do not ramble. Be specific, be concise. Whatever projects you have done, whatever internships you have done, your activities and all you have been involved with, don't just keep on writing. We have seen many students, they just don't want to reduce any content. So when they send us for the review, I'm sure Anurag, you will also agree that why they sometimes get very agitated that why have you deleted this paragraph, this is the main crux of the project and all that. So they usually they argue with us, but it's not important that you write each and everything about your project, about your the project approach and all. You should be just mentioning about what is important that in the SOP, and since SOP has a word limit, so we have a limitation. So be specific, be concise. Do not employ too many quotation unless and warranted. I think we have already covered this point. Unless and until you really believe in it, it goes well with your SOP flow. Mention it. Do not write the synopsis of your resume. Do dare to tell your story in a simple, genuine terms. So again, this point has been covered. Don't try to add your grades and transcripts and other information covering other documents. Do not inject too many phrases and idioms unless and until you are very 100% confident. Do not lose the track and deviate from the logical flow. The flow is very important. The flow should be very, it should be very convincing. And the flow will come after the various round of iterations. So you know that SOP carries a lot of weightage for your admission. It has a 20% weightage for your admission. So spend the time, it goes through various rounds of iteration. As we say that if you begin with an SOP worksheet, prepare it paragraph wise and then try to connect with the flow. Once your first draft is ready, show it to your mentor, show it to your teachers, show it to your seniors, show it to experts. If you have some experts working on your application, and that they'll help you out to review it further. So that's how you should be doing it. So these are some of the don'ts of the SOP which you should avoid. Yeah, we'll move to the next slide. So here are some university remarks on SOP. It is coming directly from the admission committee. It's there on their website. So how UC Berkeley, that is University of California, Berkeley, MIT, Cornell, and even San Jose State University, which is a very known university for right there at the Bay Area, which is known for offering masters in computer science and other related areas. So what these admission committee have specified on their website when it comes to SOP. So all these the US universities which are very known give a lot of importance to SOP. So and even if we have seen several cases over the last 27 years that even if you have a minimum qualifying GRE score to apply to any university, and you work hard on your SOP and other documents, you still can make it. And we have seen many students balancing on have made it to their dream universities. So this signifies that how SOP is important for every university, and they give a lot of importance to SOP while reading the SOP, while evaluating your profile. So please ensure that your SOP is well prepared and it's very impressive. Yeah. So we'll move to the next slide. Now, coming to the next letters of recommendation, this is another major component of your application. So, letters of recommendation, it's the only piece which gives a third person perspective on your application, on your candidature. Letter of recommendation for master's application, since this webinar is all about master's application abroad. So for master's application, ideally, you would need 3 letters of recommendation as a part of your application. Now, these 3 letters of recommendation, you can get it from your professors. If you are a student, you can also, can plan to get one from where you have done any internship, or if you are working, then one reco from your workplace will also do. So you can have a combination of 2 professor and 1 reco, or if you don't have any work experience, and all 3 professors with different subjects and different perspective will also do. So ideally the LOR should not exceed to 1.5 pages, because you know that your professors are so busy and they're not going to write like a more than a page or 2 pages for you, right? So and in fact many of the professors will say that, okay, hey, let me know what are your thoughts and what you want me to highlight, right? So LOR should be not more than 1.5 pages. We would recommend you one page content, not more than 400 to 500 words. it should be typed on a letterhead or the of the university or the company. It should be duly signed. Again, it should have the proper name of your professor, the title and institution and all. Now it should be simple and normal fonts. You should avoid putting into paragraphs and using some different style and all. Don't experiment with the letters of recommendation. And nowadays all the universities, they ask the submit the letters of recommendation online. So when you're filling up the form, you have to uh, you know write these these LORs. You have to add your recommenders email ID and the contact details, and the link is been shared by the universities, and then the your recommenders have to access and submit it. So nowadays everything is online, but you have to inform your recommenders well in advance. Your professors are very busy, they are super busy with their work, with their assignments, and there are some application timelines. So give them explain them well in advance. Tell them which all universities you are applying. In fact, you can share your statement of purpose also with them, and you can mention or give them a short write up that these are the skills, these are the achievements you are highlighting in your SOP, so that the same thing they can reiterate in their draft or in their letters of recommendation. It's very important. If your LOR is not submitted on time, then your application will stand as incomplete, and it will put you and your application will put on hold. So please ensure that your professors are aware, your supervisors at work are aware of the process. Have a good rapport with them. You need to have that comfort level to approach them and get these LORs done, right? So this is all about the LORs, and again, the LORs have to be very concise, very specific. Avoid very general gyan. Just mention more about the subjective information. Talk about your projects. Talk about involvement in other activities. Talk about your the outcomes of their projects. I mean to say, tell your professors to talk as specific as possible in terms of your projects, your academics, and involvement in other activities. So this is all about the LOR. If you have any questions related to LOR or the SOP, we can always, we can have it in the Q&A session. So let's move ahead. Now it's very important to now we've understood the components of application packet and application, and then we've also understood about in detail about SOP LORs. So you need to also understand the application timeline, the MS application timeline. So abroad there are two major intakes. There is fall intake and the spring intake. The fall starts from from spring. Fall starts from September. The spring starts from the Jan intake. So I'm assuming most of the students in this session are targeting the fall intake 22, or they're preparing for the next intake, that is fall 23. So this is the ideal timeline. So if you're looking at a next intake, that is fall 23 intake, September 23 intake, this is the right time to begin with your information search. Start preparing on the GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, the test which is required for your master's application. This is a good time to begin with the university shortlisting and start working on your the documents like resume or identify or letters of recommend, your recommenders and all. So March to September is the ideal time. You finish all these activities. October to Jan, so the deadlines are at least 8 to 9 months in advance. So October 22 to Jan 23 is a window where you have to submit all your applications, along with finalizing your SOP, LORs, and filling up your application form online and just submitting entirely. December to Feb is a time where if you have applied to Masters in Business Analytics or Masters in Engineering Management, which are more an interdisciplinary kind of programs, they do have interviews as a part of the process. So that's the time where you will get the interviews, and you will have to appear for the interviews. And nowadays, all these interviews are virtual. And once you give the interviews, Jan to March is a time where Jan 23 to March 23 will be the timeline where you will get the admission decisions, and that's a time where you will explore the scholarship options. That's a time you will prepare your financial documents. So for the students who are going for fall 22 intake, this is a time where they have most of the students have completed submitting their application, and this is a time they are awaiting for their decisions. And kind of weighing the decisions and applying for the scholarships and all. May to September is a time where you initiate the process for your visas and prepare your departure and plan for all your finances and also. So this is how the fall intake application begins. For the spring also, spring starts in Jan. So again, for spring we would advise you to submit all your applications latest by May or July is a time where you have to submit all your applications and then follow by the other process. But 90% of the students we have seen that they go for a fall intake, because there are most of the universities abroad, they have a fall intake for international students, and there are higher chances for getting acceptance, and there are higher chances for getting scholarship for the fall intake. So this is a typical MS application timeline. So in case if you are preparing for fall 23, this is a good time to begin with your information search and start with your test preparation and focus on creating focus on starting with your application documents. So I hope this was useful. Let's go to the next slide. So it is also recommended to start with your the test preparation, whether you are taking GRE or GMAT, because the scores are valid for the 5 years, and now you can take these tests at your home comfort. So it is always advisable to start with your preparation early, so that you could score well, or you have an ample time to even reappear for the next intake. Finally, we would like to say that you need to customize your application to win. Whatever you say, you have to customize your application to get into your dream university. So first of all, you need to begin what you are and what do you want to do, which schools you want to choose, what specialization you want to do, research on each school in depth. The superficial knowledge, whatever you do, is very apparent to the adcom. If you write in the MSSOP or any admission essays, if you have not done your proper research, or if you have not prepared your SOP or LO as well, it will be very apparent to the admission committee, because they are evaluating thousands of application every season. So, and to begin with, list out what do you have, what do you bring to the table versus what the school expect. So you need to probably list down what are your achievements, what are your strengths, and what are the school expectations in terms of academics, in terms of GRE, in terms of your test scores, in terms of your application timelines. Compare your profile and your class school profile. If there are any gaps, start working on those gaps. This is the beauty of the study abroad application. Even if your academics are slightly on a lower side, but you still can offset it with a very good GRE score. You can still can strengthen your application by putting up a strong application, by submitting your application well in advance. So think each application document or a piece very strategically. What do you want to communicate in your SOP? What do you want to communicate in your letters of recommendation? Identify those skills. See if there is any redundancy, if there are you repeating, or there is a oneness in your documents. What is a theme running in all these documents? As I told you, if you identify those core skills you want to highlight in your SOP, and if the same is reiterated in the LORs, it really makes a difference. After you have completed everything, you need to see whether your application is memorable or yet practical. So it is very important that you need to self introspect yourself. You need to do a thorough research on the schools and the programs you apply. It really helps you to position yourself. I think that's what we, in the end, we say that you really need to customize your application to get into your dream university. Yeah. So we'll move to the next slide. At IMSCI, that me and Anurag represent IMS, that is Center for International Education. We have great successes over the years. Our students have made it to all the top universities with varied background and scores. This is again a partial list for your reference. Our students have made it to all the Harvard, Stanford, or even for the master's application. So this is just for your reference. We'll move to the next slide. Okay, in case if you are looking for a one-on-one session with IMS CIE or with GyanDhan, you can probably write to CIE@imsindia.com, or you can call up on this number. We would advise you that you write to CIE@imsindia.com or a consulting at imsindia.com. Our coordinator will connect with you and will fix up a session with with our admission expert. So that will give you, it will be more like a profile assessment session where we can suggest you more in depth the kind of schools you can consider and what should be your ideal timelines. So yeah, that's all about for today's session. This brings to the end of today's session. So I hope this session was useful. So it is. Oh, sorry for this disturbance. We've just covered all the relevant points in writing the SOP and the letters of recommendation. Now I think Rahul, we can open up the session for the Q&A. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for that. I think that was very in detail and informative, and students uh, must have got clarity on SOPs and LORs. So we can start with the questions. I can see many questions here. Some of them are answered by Dipti you already, and the questions that are unanswered, I'll put them up one by one. I will not take all the questions because of the shortage of time, but we'll pick the questions in the manner which is useful for everyone. And everyone, you can put your questions in the message box if you have not put it yet. So the first question is that is not answered is by Shehbaz, and he's asking, can IELTS band be mentioned in the SOP?
Anurag, would you like to take this question?
Yes, ma'am. See, so IELTS band, essentially, what is the requirement for IELTS, right? IELTS is an English language proficiency test. So they are testing whether you are comfortable with English, and when they will teach the class in English or they will give you the question paper in English, will you understand that or not, right? So giving the IELTS band in the SOP does not make sense, because it is a requirement that you need to know the medium of instruction. So, and there is a separate section in the application form where you can report your IELTS score unofficially, and many of the universities will ask you to send the official IELTS score as well to them directly by the IELTS Organization Institute, which is IDP in India. So, apart from that, there is no need to specifically mention the IELTS band in SOP. It will not give you any extra advantage.
Correct. So avoid using mentioning the IELTS in your SOP. IELTS band in
Okay.
SOP.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Sabaz. And the next question is from Harshit. Harshit is asking, my SOP is of 800 words. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I mean to say around 800 to 1000 words if it is covering all the relevant points, and if it is going well with the university requirement and the specification, then it's absolutely fine.
Okay, great. Next question is Swastik. Swastik is asking, hi ma'am, should I talk about all the internships I have done?
Uh, Swastik, not all the internships, because otherwise, the SOP will have too much information about your internship. We would recommend that you identify the two or three, the most important, the most relevant internships, and then probably highlight more in detail about your learnings and the work, the nature of work you did during your internship and all. But not all of them. You can summarize, maybe just identify three or two or three and then summarize it in the SOP.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is, can you explain in detail what to write in the introduction? If the student has taken the course which was not of his interest, in that case, what to write?
Yes, Anurag, that's over to you.
Yes. So, see, introduction paragraph in the SOP is about your introduction. So first you have to talk about who you are, right? So you give some aspect of your personality, give some experience. So you can say in the introductory paragraph why you pursued the particular undergraduate major that you pursued, because at that time that was what was interesting you, right? And later on in the SOP, maybe in the later paragraphs, you can explain how your interests change over time, what other things inspired you, and why you are looking for a field change. So I would advise that writing the field change point in the introductory paragraph will not make sense. You have to basically introduce yourself and give a basic idea about who you are and where you're coming from.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Continue. Please continue.
I think there is a question by Hemant. He has
Yeah.
posted the question twice or
Multiple times.
thrice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to take his question that I'm willing to understand how does an engineering student applying to MBA colleges should be. So, there is. I mean, to say I'm not able to understand the question, Hemant, but engineers can very well can target the MBA programs. It all depends upon your career goals. So if you have already completed, okay, the SOP look like great. So engineering, if you want to go for an MBA, usually the MBA colleges have very specific essay questions. The essay questions talks about your career goals and specific questions on leadership or team events or your achievements and failures. So very rarely you will have MBA colleges will have a statement of purpose. So they will have a specific admission essays topics. So those topics you have to possibly answer. And again, they will talk about why are you looking at the MBA at this stage, what are your short term long term goals, and how this XYZ business school will help you in achieving your goals. So they will be asking specific questions. So as an engineer, as a student, what all you have learned during your work experience, and how it is goes well with your career goals, you have to specify very clearly in the MBA essays or the SOP.
Yeah. Uh, so the next question is from Aditya, and he's asking, "Hello, ma'am. Which English proficiency test would be appropriate to apply for U.S. universities?"
So any either TOEFL or IELTS, both are acceptable nowadays. So you can go for either of any of them. So even TOEFL is accepted by non-US universities, and even IELTS is accepted by the by US universities. So you can opt for any test, either TOEFL or IELTS.
Yeah. Next question is from Shashank. Shashank is asking, "How can I get LORs if I have done my bachelor's from IGNU distance?"
Okay, now this is a good question. So I would say that if you have obviously you through distance education, there is a limited interaction with the faculty or the teachers, but in that case you will have to get it from if you have done any projects or any internship, but or maybe you can write to IGNU or the committee to give you any LOR. So that's the only way. If you have done any research projects, if you have done any kind of internships, then you can probably take an LOR from your intern place. Otherwise, you will have to write to the IGNU and probably request them to give you an LOR or some kind of a letter of bona fide letter which says that you have been a part of the student and how good you are with the entire course and your performance. Yeah.
He knows a few lab attendance he has written, and one or two professors also.
Yeah, that should be good. Any professor you are in touch with, or any whether it's a lab instructor or your lab teacher or a professor would do. So
Okay, one question I have missed uh, that was that can SOP be saved for all the universities?
yeah, Nura, could you like to answer this? SOP expert. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, this is a very common question a lot of students ask because yes, I mean it can ease your effort, right? If you have one standard SOP and you just send it to all the universities, but it is not advisable. Basically, I would say that maybe 60 to 70% of the SOP can be same. The part where you're talking about your story, but many times what happens is the student is applying to different programs. You know, there is slight variations in the program that they're applying to, or the coursework or the structure of the university where they're applying is different. Maybe the university is offering something different. So those differences should come in the SOP. That's why at least 30 to 40% of the SOP will be unique for that university and it will need to be customized. I hope that answers the
Correct.
question.
Right.
Yeah, there's one more question from Swastik. If Dipti, if you like to take it, I think it's very particular. I mean, to one case, Swastik's case. Uh, if you like to take that, we can take that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
sure, right. Started my letter of recommendation with the small 2-3 sentences long story about evaluation of which I've explained how the feedback. Yeah, it is fine, absolutely fine if it goes well with your career goals and if you really believe in the evaluation of computed topography, you can go ahead with it. Any experience or any incidents or any anything you really believe in, you can always mention. Just ensure that it goes well with your career interest and the program you're applying. It should just sync with the program and your career interest.
yeah. So students, you can. I mean, if you want to ask any more questions, you can put it. We can wait for 1 minute. Otherwise, we will end the session as we are already running out of time. So yeah, I think that's all. So Shashank is asking, are there any paid services for SOPs?
Yeah, you can, like IMS, we do offer the consulting services. If in case if you are keen on knowing more about our programs, you can write to us at consulting@imsindia.com. I'll just, Anurag, if you could just type it in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, consulting@imsindia.com. You can write to us with your profile and we can share with you the further details. Yeah, I think there is one question. We have to write 2 SOPs at the beginning and at the end of the visa. For visa, it will be all about the SOP, that why you're looking at a particular country and what are your plans. So you can use the you can tweak your application SOP and do some changes and use it for the visa. And it also depends upon country to country. It also depends on country. Not every country during the visa process asks for the SOP. So
yeah.
great.
Yes. Thank you so much, Swastik, and thank you so much, Anurag, for the email IDs. You can note it. Everyone can note it down. Just copy it from here, and you can get in touch with IMS for any consulting related to SOPs, LORs, and that's all. I think we can wrap this webinar. It was a very insightful session, and thank you so much, Dipti and Anurag, for making your time and informing us about, educating us about SOPs and LORs in such a detailed manner. And thank you everyone for coming, attending this webinar. After this webinar, we will send all the attendees an email uh, in which I will also mention these email IDs which Anurag has mentioned. I will re mention those email IDs, and you can get in touch with IMS through these IDs. And also, if you want to get in touch with GyanDhan, there will be a link through which you can get in touch with GyanDhan as well. So thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Thank you, Dipti. Thank you, Anurag.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you all. Good luck to all of you. Thank you, Rahul, for organizing this session. And thank you, Anurag, for co-hosting so well. Good luck to all the students who are attending. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you, Dipti ma'am. It was a great session. I really enjoyed it. I hope that our insights were helpful for the attendees. All of
Yeah.
you have a good evening.
And everyone, we will also send you the recording of this session after this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Take
Bye
care.
bye.